Hello everybody and welcome back to Fantasy Football Fix and to the quick guide video that is returning in its full form, where we take a look at the top captain picks and the top 10 predicted point scorers ahead of the upcoming game week to help you grab your best score, in this case in game week 22. We'll also be taking a look at the fixtures coming up and game week 25, which teams are blanking, how to best navigate it, and overall which teams have the strongest attacking and defensive fixtures using the fixture analyzer tool over on the website, which you can check out for yourself and all the other great tools using the links down below in the description. Without any further ado though, let's get into it and kick things off with the captain picks. So this week, as I see it, really, there are only two main captain options, and those are Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. If Luke Shaw didn't have this rumoured illness, then maybe he'd be in consideration as well. We're going to see Manchester United in action tonight, so we'll be able to see whether Luke is back in the matchday squad, whether he's starting, which would be ideal for anyone who just owns him, never mind is considering captaining him. But for now, who we really need to consider is Marcus Rashford, who the majority of people own, and then Bruno Fernandes, who fewer people own, but there is still a decent proportion of players who are looking to bring him in or do already own him for this double game week. Well, we can use the predicted points tool over on the Fix website to see that Marcus Rashford is the one ahead in that department, with 11.2 points compared to Bruno's 9.8, so quite a gulf there. But the live ownership, if you're looking for a differential, goes in favour of Bruno Fernandes. And the difference between this and FPL's official ownership is this only takes into account live teams. So the dead teams, the people who haven't changed their teams since the start of the season or haven't been playing FPL recently, they're not considered in these ownership statistics. So these give a more accurate representation of what proportion of managers who are truly active and involved in the game and the ones you're going to be competing with for your rank at the end of the season do have in terms of ownership. So 12.5% for Bruno makes him much more of a differential than Rashford at 76.4 if you're looking to go for someone who could perhaps result in a higher rank game. We'll then look at the fixtures and we know how good they are. Crystal Palace and Leeds at home, two of the not the best defences in the league at all at the moment. Definitely the best set of fixtures in game week 22 over Leeds, who do face off against Manchester United themselves. And then we can look at the opponent's expected goals conceded themselves just to judge this. So 1.42 expected goals conceded per 90 this season for Crystal Palace and 1.57 for Leeds as well. And those statistics don't differ too much from the restart. We've not seen a drastic improvement in Palace or Leeds' defence since we've come back from the World Cup break. When we look at United as a team, their XG per 90 looks very strong, 1.52, and the expected FPL points per player, when we look at the individuals, Marcus Rashford is averaging a higher expected FPL points per 90 than Bruno is this season, which backs up why he's on that higher predicted points score that we saw at the very start. So who would I captain? To be honest, I would play it safe. I think even if I owned Bruno Fernandes, I would captain Marcus Rashford. I would even potentially consider triple captaining Marcus Rashford. I think he's a very strong option to use that chip on this week. The one little thing putting me off would be that Eriksen injury. I know that they've signed Sabitzer, brought him in, could be a like-for-like replacement and just slot into that midfield. I think Fred's looked decent recently as well. I think he could slot in and do a job there too. But that's another argument for going with Marcus Rashford over Bruno Fernandes, is there have been games where Eriksen's been out and Bruno Fernandes has dropped a bit deeper and hasn't looked perhaps as advanced as he has when Eriksen has been in the side. So that's another argument for going for Marcus Rashford, but I think the Eriksen injury blow does make Manchester United a little bit worse as a whole. Whether that's enough to put you off the triple captain, I'll leave you guys up to decide, but it definitely wouldn't be enough to put me off the triple captain. I still think he's a brilliant option this week, or Erling Haaland next week. If you go for him, it's got to be the one really in game week 23, unless you're prepared to use a chip strategy that waits for a later double to deploy the triple captain chip if you still have it left. Well, in that vein, we've seen two of, I imagine, the highest predicted point scorers. Well, we can check out the rest of the top 10, and there's a lot of Manchester United players in here, unsurprisingly. Rashford and Fernandes taking up the top two. We've got David De Gea in there as well. Anthony, Varane, Casemiro, Shaw. We've then got Rodrigo and Melia in there as well, taking up the 8 and 10 spots with Martinez sandwiched in between them. So it's all double game week players in the top 10 predicted point scorers. Would I be considering any of these assets other than the ones we've discussed with Rashford and Fernandes? I think the majority of us already own Luke Shaw, who does, unsurprisingly, make it into the top 10. But could we add another one of these players? Casemiro, if you don't have a United triple up already, does look very good. Traditionally, CDMs or deep line midfielders aren't great FPL assets, but he looks so involved in what United are doing from a creative point of view. He's making those runs forward. He's getting chances as well. I do think he could be a nice little decent option if you can't quite afford to get to Bruno maybe, or do something like that without ripping up the rest of your team. Casemiro could provide a cheeky little differential, but you have just got to set your expectations right with that one, I think. Rodrigo's another one who you could go for easily, 6.4 million, so a little bit more expensive than someone like a Casemiro, but he does also have a fixture confirmed in game week 25, which we'll get onto in a moment. So that's a big plus for Leeds assets like Rodrigo and Gnonto, is that if you have a lot of players from teams like Man United, Brentford, Brighton, and Newcastle who will all blank in game week 25, then having a player like Rodrigo who faces an easy team like Southampton in that week could be a big plus for your side when we're going to have to bench our Trippiers, our Shaws, these type of highly owned players. We're going to have to rely on other assets in our 15-man squad. So yeah, Rodrigo looks another nice option in summary. You could go for Melier. Personally, not a big fan of goalkeeper transfers, and I think the majority of us own someone like a Kepa or an Edison, who is still a good option at this point in time. But yeah, other than that, I probably wouldn't be considering anyone else from this list. Anthony would be a super differential, could go for him, but really not the biggest fan of picking him in my side right now. But we'll move on to the final point then, and the upcoming fixtures for the next couple of game weeks. We can see in game week 22, it's unsurprisingly Manchester United and Leeds who rank highest in that week, but also over the next 4 in total, as you can see. The problem with Man United is that game week 25 blank that's coming up if they progress through the Carabao Cup, which it looks very, very likely they will do. They're 3-0 up on aggregate against Nottingham Forest, so I don't really see a world, especially as a Man United fan, I hope I don't see a world where we don't progress through in that competition to face Newcastle in the final, which will mean, as mentioned, Man United and their opponents Brentford will both blank, along with Newcastle, who went through, and their opponents Brighton in game week 25. So yeah, Man United at the top, but it could well drop down, and you've got to remember that we have got to navigate that blank game week. When we've got Shaw, Rashford, and then probably Trippier, I think everyone really owns them. If we're adding more of these players like Matoma, like Tony, if you've got him in your side, got to consider how many of these players can you bench, and have you got enough free transfers to remove the number of players you'd want to get as close to filling a full 11 as you can, and ideally feeling a full 11 in total. Leeds come in second then, and as mentioned, they've got that kind fixture against Southampton in game week 25, which does look a good plus. And Manchester City are another team with a really strong fixture that week going up against Bournemouth, and they've of course got the double next week in game week 23, so definitely don't be put off Man City assets. I think Ake and Rico Lewis could potentially offer something, but I still think that the Man City triple up in attack with Mahrez, Haaland, and then maybe KDB, or instead going with Edison at the back, probably looks like the best triple up as of now. From Arsenal, we're looking at Eddie Nketiah alongside probably Odegaard, and then either a defender or Bukayo Saka. I don't think Jorginho has anything to worry about with penalties. I saw a few people worried about that, but really I don't see him getting too many minutes in this Arsenal side. We've then got Wolves, who make it into the top 5, but really their attacking numbers have been too poor to consider any options. And when we look over to the defensive picks, we can see Leeds there up again at the top. So, if you want to go with Melier, you need a goalkeeper transfer. He could be a decent, nice little pick to go for, especially if you could bench him in game week 23. We've then got Manchester United once more, Man City, Arsenal, and then it's Liverpool making up the top 5. But I wouldn't be going anywhere near a Liverpool defender right now. They look like almost the worst defence in the league as of late. So yeah, you could go for, as mentioned, those defenders, Ben White or Gabriel. But Gabriel would be my pick from Arsenal. Man City defenders, on the whole, probably best to avoid until we see how things are going to plan out with Cancelo's departure. Rico Lewis looks like he could be a nice pick. The problem is he's very prone to being subbed before the 60-minute mark, and that one-pointer will be forever painful every week that it does happen if you're starting the young lad. And then we've got Manchester United, we mentioned. Luke Shaw, pretty much everyone owns already, and Leeds, probably avoid the defence for now if you can. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Quick Guide video. Let me know if it was helpful down below in the comments, or if there's anything you'd like to see from us in future episodes. For all the tools used in this video, make sure to head over to Fantasy Football Fix via the links down below in the description. And I hope to see some of you there using the best website for your FPL analysis. I hope you have the best of luck for Game Week 22, but I'll be back tomorrow, actually, to have Eddie versus the algorithm ready for you and see what the algorithm team is lining up with for this double game week. On the predicted points, we can guess there's going to be quite a few doublers in there, but who else looks good options for Game Week 22? You'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out, so make sure you subscribe down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.